So while NFTs are all the rage, cryptocurrencies have run into a rough patch. And while that's considered par for the course for people who've been long them for a long time, it's worth examining what exactly is happening right now. So let's bring in from Bianco Research, your president, Jim Bianco. And Jim, this morning, JP Morgan raised Coinbase to a buy, and they said they see greater acceptance. But still, Bitcoin keeps getting hit, and some are wondering if it's the inflation story, is it Kazakhstan? What's happening there?
I think they're all related. When JP Morgan says that there's more acceptance, that is that traditional financial institutions are accepting cryptocurrencies. Unfortunately, what that also means is that when you start analyzing cryptocurrencies, you usually start with Fed policy and inflation and the outlook for the economy. And since we're in a risk-off environment, stocks are struggling, bond yields are surging, they're falling. But because they're cryptos, they just don't fall 1 or 2% like the stock market. They fall 40%. And then, of course, when they rally orders of magnitude on the other side. Kazakhstan's an interesting story, too, because when China chased all of the Bitcoin miners, those are the people that process the network, out of their country last summer, 20% of the capacity to process the network went to Kazakhstan. Now they're under political duress. The internet has been turned off. A lot of those miners have been impaired from doing their job. But it shows how resilient the system is, that it continues to function. And ultimately, long term, that'll probably be bullish, because I think a lot of these miners will move out of Kazakhstan and they'll try and find a place that's a little more stable to set up shop, like maybe East Texas or Miami, who's openly courting these Bitcoin miners.
Jim, so on the Bitcoin, it was one of the appeals. It was uncorrelated. It was also a hedge against inflation. Are those no longer, talking points, if you will?
Well, that's been a frustration, I think, with the currency. It was supposed to be uncorrelated. It was supposed to be a pure hedge against inflation, or a hedge against financial problems as well. And right now it does trade a bit like a high beta version or more volatile version of the stock market. I think that that's because of the adoption. That's not going to be the case forever. Okay. But it is the case right now in 22. And because we have it that way, yeah, it gets frustrating, because why do I own cryptocurrencies if all I have to do is buy a levered version of the stock market and I've got the same thing? Right.
So yesterday, a group of former health advisors to President Biden unveiled the strategy to deal with the virus. Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel stated that without a strategic plan for a new normal, the endemic COVID-19, more people in the U.S. will unnecessarily experience morbidity, mortality, health inequalities, inequities rather, and widen, he says, in trillions will be lost from the economy. It sounds like what people were saying from day one. The question now is, will the administration embrace this? Your thoughts?
I really hope they do embrace it, because one of the problems that we're having, and I'll give you a statistic, 3% of the U.S. labor force has tested positive for the Omicron variant in just the last 10 days. They're all on the shelf, if to use a sporting term, on injured reserve. You keep having those type of levels of absenteeism in the economy, you're going to have a real drag on it as well, too. Now, virtually all of those people are going to recover from this. Those that are going to have more problems usually have pre-existing conditions or comorbidities. So we got to start thinking about, how do we deal with this like we deal with the flu? When people get the flu, we don't send them to the hospital. We don't send them home and require them to get a negative flu test to go back to work. But that's essentially what we're doing with these people, and it's really having a bad drag on the economy. So, yeah, I agree. We need to think forward about it. I hope the administration will start to do that, but we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, it's one heck of a chip for governments, though, to seize and control more power in the purse strings. I don't know what it is about you, Jim, but since we started that segment, the loss on the S&P has been cut in half. I wish I could keep you longer, but we've got some other folks scheduled. Happy New Year.
Happy to do it for everybody in the market. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. All right, folks, Chicago schools remain